It's 5, 4, 3, 3. Let's give Min Hee a hand. Straight from Gwangju, beautiful city in the middle of South Korea. Gorgeous food, wonderful food. Good bibimbap. Yes, thank you. Kalbi, I love that kalbi. Can't stay away from that stuff. Get high cholesterol, but I love that stuff. We are talking after The Tempest. After seeing The Tempest, Derek Jarman's Tempest, shot in the early 80s. You saw it. Oh, you were absent. Okay. Well, this will be perfect. Couple questions as we're getting into Love Suicides at Amijima. This is a 100 level play analysis class, but we're trying to deal with the big themes. Today's big theme is, what is the West? Europe. Europeans in America. 600 years ago, white folks. Something like that. What is the West? What is a dominant idea? What have they done in history? What attracted you guys, Asians, to come to study in the West? And what kind of be gentle, but what sort of generalizations can you make? Min Hee, give me a couple generalizations of Westerners from your perspective.
Like their characteristics of it?
Yeah.
Self-centered, I guess?
Self-centered. Yeah, let's hear it. And Asian Americans, you can pipe right in and say, we're not so self-centered. Yes, we are. Okay, Alex says yes. Self-centered.
I mean, not in a bad way. Though.
Right? Not in a bad way, but a kind of a OCD way, right? What else? I like that. Self-centered. Outspoken. And pretty much I'm asking you guys to, I compared the Socratic method, hi Mom, to a game of volleyball where we take this theme, what is the West, toss it up, keep it up in the air. Keep it up in the air. Self-centered. Anyone. Asians. Let's hear it. Got it. I like your style. Honest. As if are you Hanguk or Chinese? Hanguk. Are Koreans dishonest sometimes with their face? Important thing, there's a question of face, right? Keeping face, letting up face. Sometimes. Are Westerners dishonest with their face? I'm speaking philosophically. They are. Often they've been described as double-faced, right? Dubla faccia in Italiano. What do you think, Chung?
I think we're double-faced.
You're American, right? But you're bridging two cultures, right? Your parents are from China? Korea?
Burma.
Oh, Burma. Cool. So Southeast Asian.
I was born in
So grew up in Canton, amongst Cantonese people. This is a great idea. Let's talk about guilt, shame, and face. Would you say even in Burma, this notion of shame is important?
I'd say so, but I don't think.
Yeah, but what about your parents?
I'd say so, yeah.
Who's also Asian American? Teresa, keeping face. What's important about keeping face as an Asian American?
Well, you always have to keep up your appearance, even if you're struggling in life. You have to seem like you're being successful at the same time.
Even though you're crying on the inside,
Yeah.
or can't make the Alex face as a Westerner. Both your parents are German, right? Mm-hmm. Deutschen. Is face important for the Germans?
Very much so.
How would you say, from your observation, that that's different than Asian sense of face? Keeping face. By face, I mean keeping your outward appearances.
Well, from what Teresa just said, for you guys, it seems like you more or less bottle up everything else and you put on this outward expression like everything's fine. For at least my family, it's the outside doesn't matter, but as long as your face is stern, you're fine.
Stern, the typical German stern face. Liz, face, your family, your culture. You Dominican?
Yeah. Well, a lot of things. It's like, for example, I was talking to my grandma, and like my parents are right now, they're going through like
Troubles.
yeah, going through troubles, and so my grandma feels like the man he's key in the household. He's needed in the household. His presence, even if you're not happy, his presence is needed. And
That's
so-
your father's. That's your father's mother.
No, that's my mother's mother.
Okay.
And so she doesn't like my mother, like downing him and making him feel less of a man. And so.
Oh,
for
she's
her-
sticking up for her son-in-law.
Yeah. So she's.
Isn't
like,
that funny with Latin and Mediterranean cultures? They
Yeah,
always stick up for the in-law.
It's like the whole facial thing. Is
I have a
like,
theory.
With her husband. You know,
Because they know how hard their children are. Excuse me.
he-
Keep going.
He just like he was the man of the household. She told me when there was time she was gonna have sex, like she would just lay on her back and like she just
Your mom?
No, my grandma.
Oh,
She would just lay on her back and just
Grandpa.
that was it. And so like keeping appearances, it's like you're not happy, but at the same time you have to act it so that everybody in society thinks that you have the home. But really
Stan, this glue is important, right? Face is important.
Well, I think that we have to distinguish between collective cultures and individualistic cultures.
Right? The Asian said we're selfish, which I think we are. You said you're
Centered.
self-centered. Oh, sorry. Don't back up. You can. Self-centered. Okay, what is individualistic and collectivist culture? What's your take?
Well, in collectivist cultures, the family is most important, and you have to stick up for the family, work with them, work with the whole group. In America, we have an individualistic culture where you care about yourself more than that's the main thing. So it's two different cultures.
Asian Americans, was that tough to get down with, or you pretty well? You came here when you were young, right? Yeah. So, but you speak Chinese, right? You all speak Chinese, right? Is that you? Do you feel you're Asian Americans? You're treading between that, like family, they're important, yeah, but so is my career.
You have to balance both, in my opinion. I think both are very important in having a good life and a stable life.
Right.
The ones with like the American idea of you go for it and then your family doesn't matter. It like later in life you'll get the feeling that your family doesn't want to be with you anymore.
Really?
Cause like
Even if they get old
if
and
you
need
raise
help.
if you raise your kids to have the same idea as like, oh, you should really go look out for yourself and not care about your family, later in life they might separate from you too.
Yeah, that's alienation, right? That's sad, you know, when so you see your mom begging at the subway and you ignore her. Well, see, I got a reaction out of you. That would be dire, right,
I
Chung?
think this is like the family part and like focusing on yourself to get a good career, like connected with each other.
Because they're proud of you because
Yeah.
you've been selfish about your career, but you always got to look back and help
Yeah.
them because for thousands of years there's been no social security in Asia, so this is an important link for at least them getting old, right? I mean, the kids have to bring in the grandparents, right? How many of your grandparents live with you? There you go. The Asian is American. The grandparent, your grandma lives with you
temporary. She comes to visit, but my
from
other
Dominican
grandma-
Republic.
Yeah, like my grandma used to live with me, but then my mother kicked her out. No, because that was like my father's mother. She only really did that mainly because it was like she felt like the house it couldn't really be a home because my dad he's a mama's boy, and so she felt like he wasn't really being a man with his mother around.
Your mother's.
Yeah.
Your mother did, or your mother's mother?
No, my mother felt like my father's mother
Oh.
was like sort of
Was
like,
too protective. She thought she was
Yeah,
competing with her.
Yeah, and so it's like
Is that cultural? Would you generally just say that's
I mean,
Dominican?
I would because it's like on the other hand, like my father's side of the family, they have negative things to say about my mother, and so my mother doesn't like it. So like she's on her own, and so to have a woman in the house that's kind of like against her at the same time, she didn't like it.
Must be tough. Must be tough. Monet, shame, guilt, weigh in.
I don't know, it's different. Like, I'm Chinese, so
Chinese and Guyanese.
yeah. So my dad always kept everything in like face, like everything's good on his face. You know what I mean? Like even if it was the worst.
Are they both from Guyana?
My dad's mom's from Guyana. My dad's dad was from China.
Ah, very cool. So you're second generation. Cool.
But then like my mom's like from here. She's white. And
Cool.
So it's
Like
just-
Irish girl or?
like Russian, Austrian, Polish, and she's like Jewish, so I have to go to temple.
Oh, everything. I like that about Stony Brook. Like 1/3 of Stony Brook, this is like a moot question because they've been here and they're of like 2 or 3 cultures, maybe even 2 or 3 different races too. So this is interesting. So what would you say is more important in your family, Monet? Guilt or shame? Does your mom make you feel guilty? Because that's the traditional Jewish
Yeah.
thing, right?
Yeah.
There's not a Jewish mama who doesn't make you feel guilty,
My
right?
dad would be like, "Shut up." You know what I mean? Like he was always like, be quiet, like never yelled like super quiet, and my mom would always be like, yeah.
And that's kind of, are they still together?
Well, my dad passed away.
Oh, that's too bad.
So just like now my mom.
Ah, you're trying to bring your dad out again and be.
Well, I am like him. Like I'm just like. I'll
Just
take
plug
it,
your ears.
whatever, But she always barged. But my brothers are very quiet also. Like we're all like.
How many brothers you have?
2.
And they're quiet. They just let your mom takes over. Very good. Navita, weigh in. Both sides Indian?
No, my mom's Guyanese.
Hey, hey.
Well, I got a lot of Guyanese in my
Put it
class.
together,
Yeah, my dad's Indian though, and he's like.
He's what?
My dad's Indian.
He's Indian, your mom's Guyanese.
So he's always like about like you have to do whatever makes the family look good. Like you have to.
Would you two say that Guyanese have taken on a Latin sort of demeanor? Kind of.
Yeah.
But they're silent about it.
My mom's
Talkative. What is more important, guilt or shame in your house? And I only isolate these things because I'm making a debate here. I'm saying guilt is Western, shame is Eastern.
I think like my dad more about shame. Like you always have to do like you can't talk about any problems or anything. You always have to look good in front of his family. And then my mom's more of like she guilts you. She's like, I'm always the victim. I always have to do this. You should help me do this.
Huh. So it is a little bit collision between East and West, right? Same with you, Monet, right? Pang! Guilt and shame. Do you think Westerners, particularly like Protestants, are guilt obsessed, or maybe Jewish Americans or Protestant Americans?
I don't know. But for my family, my father have a poker face.
Poker face. I like that.
Yeah.
Good old Asian poker face. You do well in Vegas, right? He doesn't let anyone know what he's thinking.
Yeah. Maybe because he Korea, he's a government, so
He's in the government?
yeah, he was,
He's a governor?
he working in government.
Oh, he works in the government.
Yeah.
Ah, I like your description, poker face. Who has a parent with a poker face over here? Asians. Name again. Singyun. Chinese? Hanguk. Your dad has poker face? And your mother too. Good, and getting the Asians to discuss this. Do you feel after your time in America you want to go up to them and say, Mom, let me know what you're thinking? No? Because you don't want to know what she's thinking, right? But does she suggest things for you to do? Are you from Seoul? Big city, modern city, right? It's almost like New York. So divorce is 60%. It's a modern international city, right? Does she get disappointed that you're more modern? You take on modern sort of ethos or attributes? Are you traditional? You're traditional. Who's traditional over here on the Asian side? How? How's the matter? How's the matter? Right. Right. Because you don't feel guilty, you feel like you would shame your mother, right? Right. Shiho. Weigh in. Own this. Don't be silent like your dad. Your dad's out there? Silent? You won't know what they're thinking or whatever. How do you? And you're a little. How many? You've been 2 years in America? Or a year? Yeah. 3 years. What do you feel? What do you like about the Western emotions? Are they being double faced when they do that, Joe? Western, hey, how's it going? Hey, pump a hand. I was just in Minnesota. It's like the land of nice, you know. What's that, Joe?
Not necessarily, just being overly enthusiastic.
Yeah. You think so?
Yeah.
Overly, is it too much energy? You think they're wasting? Hey, how's it going? What's going on? You think that's false?
No, I don't think it's false, but yeah, they're like typically they're more like energetic. I mean, there are some Asians who are energetic, and some of them, but I feel like all the Americans I've been seeing, like they do have this characteristic of being energetic, being out there, you know.
What I love living in Korea, Seoul, I lived there for a year and a half, was that at lunchtime, you go and have that good bibimbap, the one with the scorched bowl, but you go with your enemies too, right?
Yeah.
Everyone, the guy you hate in the office, they invite him along and you're all sitting there. That is so civilized. You sit, Americans, how many, would that happen? No way.
I sit like far away. Like if they're here, I'm just all the way over there.
It's a winter's day. All my colleagues, you know they don't agree with each other. Say, hey, we're going to eat. Let's have some bibimbap. Come on. And then they're all sitting there and they're talking or whatever. And then it's like that cartoon. What was that cartoon where, like, when they're done eating, then they start fighting again? Where's that come from? Who's Hanguk? Does that happen in your family? Lee, right? Jay. Are you from Seoul? But you know what I'm talking about, right? Is at the lunch, the meals are very important, right? In China, are the meals important? I hate that about the West. The meals are becoming, and then they're out, right? So they're like, oh, a burger, Big Mac, I'm gone. Or they eat on the run. I started to drink coffee on the street in Seoul, and people look at me like, have your mouth open, and eating is not polite in Seoul, right? Not really, right? Is it polite in China? It is? You can eat? You can spit in China. So weigh in. This is good. Asians, you're coming out. Keep that ball in the air. Jay, what would you say? I don't like that personally, that Westerners can't sit down to a meal with their enemies, or they don't focus on the people. You're losing it in Korea, right? Kids go to their what's the hagwons at night. Mommies go off to golf. Daddies go off to the whiskey bars. Kind of. No, not really. But that idea of sitting down and eating is very important for Han society, right? Chinese, same thing. Sitting, eating. Name again. Eva. Shizhong. Eva. I'm sorry. I'll learn. Is sitting out a meal important for Chinese? You think so?
Yeah, people.
You're Chinese, right? It's real important, right? You sit down and have a meal, and you might invite your enemies too, right? Every time I've been to Korea, the only time I've seen my money is when we're sitting in a karaoke room where Westerners say, it's just a goofy place you sing songs. It's like, nope, that's the traditional smoke-filled room. Jonathan, your family, Asian American, how much do you retain that kind of idea, public, private, individual, collective, shame, guilt? Where would you say you fall? You make your own decisions? Cool, with your parents. Not really. I got to close it up.